Welcome everyone to another episode of Are You There, Ghost? It's me, Chiwan. I'm excited about all my guests. I just want to say I'm especially excited about today because I haven't seen her in a little bit and I love talking to her so much. So please welcome author, publisher, game maker, mother, judge, Frances Lu-Pai Ippolito. Welcome,
Hey,
Frances.
thank you for having me, and it's so great to see you
Great seeing
again.
you.
Yeah, I always love talking to you.
How you been?
Oh, it's been busy. It's a lot going on. I think when I decided to start 2 presses in the same year, I probably could not make the best choice for my life and sleep, but it's been great. It's been great so far. It's a lot going on, but it's all worth it.
And then tell us about the two presses.
Oh, sure. One is a nonprofit that is still getting up and running, and that one is called Cheating Press. So for that press, I wanted to focus on marginalized and diverse voices, collecting oral histories, but also showcasing stories from communities who might need a little bit of a help getting into the publishing space. So the first book we will have coming out will be in June of next year on International Refugee Day, and the picture book is going to be from the Korean minority refugee community that's in Portland. It's a refugee community um, that's been displaced from Burma, and many of its members were in refugee camps in Thailand. And so over the last 15 years, they've settled in Portland, but not many people know their story. And as Asian diaspora is so
Uh,
big and diverse that sometimes you don't hear about the smaller groups or the people who have been swallowed by the larger groups. So when there was a war in Burma and Thailand, the boundaries of the countries changed, and suddenly you weren't necessarily your independent country or citizenship anymore was gone. You became part of another country, but not like a full citizen of that country. So I wanted to have an opportunity to have a nonprofit press that was focused on stories like this. So all the money will go back into the project to help develop a curriculum guide and also to produce more books and also hopefully to provide opportunities for the community, for the refugee community to have better outcomes, training, education, especially for those who are still in refugee camps and have limited options there. So that's one. That's already a lot.
that
And the
sounds
other one,
amazing. That sounds
yeah,
amazing and huge.
I think it's one of those things that as I started looking into how all the nonprofits that are available, I really wanted to partner up with people I consider to be anchors in their
Mm,
community. And
mhm.
because I can't write this story, this is not my story or my background. And people have said, "Oh, you should just do the picture book. You can just write it." But it's not I feel like it's not my story to tell the first time anyway. And I
Yeah,
want that
yeah,
first book for the kids who are here in the local schools to come from someone of that heritage. And
yeah,
we our illustrator is also of the heritage, and he is in Thailand, and it's more challenging to work, I think, with illustrators and collaborators in different countries, different languages, for me, different culturally too, 'cause I'm not Thai or Korean. But that's the type of thing that I think a nonprofit indie press can do that might be
yeah,
harder with other,
yeah,
like, publishing avenues.
yeah. Taking on that huge thing. The other presses.
Oh, yes, it's I like playing board games and tabletop games, and so I wanted to make books that are gamey, that have a game feel
Mm,
or playable. So the experience of reading it is not just, I'm gonna read through an anthology of stories. I want it to have I won't say interactive because it's not really interactive, but it is if you play. For example, Wanting Past came on the screen. The front of it is a board game. It's called the Royal Game of Ur. It's one of the oldest known board games, and it's from Mesopotamia. And you can actually put the book down, and you can take out the game pieces from the book, you cut them out or print them out, you cut them out and then or use quarters, proxies, whatever, and you play on the book. So that's an example of one game aspect of it. The inside of the book, the stories and poetry are all organized by a choose your next story or pick your
Yeah.
next story mechanic. And so you can read it non-linearly as you're trying to figure out like what do I want to do next? And there's little puzzles and maybe some prizes. So yeah, I wanted to do something that was like an anthology where the stories are about games, but not a anthology that we've all seen already.
Yeah. That I'm so excited about that. I'm like, what's your Venmo? I'm a Venmo.
Yes. Well,
Um,
I'm glad.
yeah. When is this book coming out?
That one is right now, so fall, so probably November.
Okay.
There's a big rush in October usually for horror because I write horror as well. So the horror books all come out and it's a lot of Halloween stuff. And this I think of as an any season type of a book, but if it comes out in November, maybe someone would like it for the holidays because I think that in my experience, the gaming community, they're very strong readers. They love reading in general. They're always looking for new things to try out. And then with writers and readers in general, I think they're looking for something that is a little bit different, that has replayability, and I wanted to do a crossover, so it seemed like it would be a good holiday book maybe, so people could try it. If you don't want your kids to be on the screen, maybe you would read this book.
Yeah. Man. Okay. I gotta ask you, because I've been curious ever since I first met you. Out of all your titles, publisher, mother, horror writer, judge, all these things, game maker, what came first? What was your first passion? And
I was actually a teacher first, and that's not listed.
that's not even listed
I was a high school teacher.
in LA.
Yeah, I was in Temple City for a little bit, but I did my student teaching in Boston. So I taught there, and then I moved to LA. This is before law school and everything, and I taught. And yeah, I think because I was a teacher first, and I've always worked with kids and in some
Mhm.
capacity or other, I think when I approach publishing and writing, it's the same thing. I don't treat the reader as someone who I have trust in the reader, that's someone who doesn't have any knowledge, but I think it's my responsibility as a writer or a publisher to produce something where I um, ensure that trust is justified. So if I'm gonna write a story, I'm gonna give you, the reader, enough so that you can trust that I'm taking you along a path that makes sense, like anchors or milestones in the story. If it's a press, like I want to make sure that the books I put out have like somebody who would enjoy them. And
Yeah.
as a teacher, I tried to make my kids pay attention by setting the chalkboard on fire. This is me. If they're rowdy, I would just spray acetone on the chalkboard and just light it, and then the whole chalkboard would catch on fire, and everyone got quiet, and they sat down, and they're like, "What are we learning?"
I imagine. Yeah, that's totally legal. But well, so you continue to work with young people, right? Not just in making games, but you have a program that you're involved in or run. Um,
Yeah, yeah, so I'm a co-chair for the Portland, I guess it's we have different chapters. So the Portland chapter of Willamette Writers has a young Willamette Writers group as well. And so what we do for that is Willamette Writers is a nonprofit, so it has membership, but it also provides a lot of like, workshops and classes and all that for the community of writers here in the Pacific Northwest. So one of the programs they have is completely free for any child in middle school or high school who has a desire to write. Now, it's not a traditional, what you think of like a school writing class. It's like a
right.
real writing class. Like we bring in presenters who are authors, poets, people in publishing, and our presenters come and they actually do a workshop with the kids. So they'll talk about like last time we did plot points. So we went through and mapped out stories like established stories that the kids knew about. And then we also had them create a story using the map and like the skeleton and build a
Hmm.
story using the different stages of different parts of a plot. We've had poetry, and the kids have done free writes of poetry. We've done, let's see, podcasts and film presenters as well, and so
Uh,
talking about the writer's room and what that's the realities of the industry. But yeah, we provide basically these classes, I think, that would cost a lot for these kids to
yes.
actually try to attend, but it's completely free, it's hybrid, so any kid anywhere in that age group who wants to write and doesn't know where to get resources, there's just log in. It's the first Saturday of most months, and after you attend 2 of the sessions, you're invited to come to the annual conference for Willamette Writers, which is where it's a full day, 2-day weekend. Yeah, I think it's, like, at this point, 3-day event where there's master classes, there's speakers, panels, and the kids come for a full day, and it's a full day. They have maybe 10 minutes breaks, a couple of them, and then
Yeah.
lunch, but it is endless.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
bestsellers are coming in, they're talking about the pros and cons of writing certain things. They're talking about their own experience. They're doing a question answer session. We had the last one, screenplay discussion about what it's like to work in LA, like what it's like to work in the industry. So it's a great program. I'm really proud of it. We partner up with the Beaverton City Library, and our librarian, Ian, has been really supportive in helping us have the space and making sure that when we do have like 20 kids coming, there's a place for them to all sit.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really good. We're in our second or third year post pandemic, and our numbers are back to where they were before the pandemic.
That sounds amazing. I
It's a
I
great
wish
program.
I knew I wish I there were things like this and I knew about them when I was a kid and when I was just starting to write.
Yeah, that's what I've actually heard from a lot of our presenters is they come in, they're like, "Oh, we're not really sure, like, how to work with kids because 'cause they're used to working with adult writers, and they
Yeah.
come in, and these kids they've got 2 or 3 novels in a series, and they're ready to go. I had one student last week after we'd finished doing the plot points, and we went over time. And our instructor was like, "I think we should probably wrap up now. We probably have to go home." And the kid said, "No, I can do this all day. I have nothing else planned." Like, "I'm here and I can be here all day." And he looked at the librarian, he's like, "Do we have anything else scheduled?"
Oh my god.
Like, yeah, so
Oh my god.
it's great to see the students come back month after month, and they're not all gonna be career writers. That's not the plan for everybody who's there, who joins, but this is a space that is really supportive for all kind of creative
Mm,
endeavors. So, if you wanna do graphic novels, or do you wanna, like, brainstorm about this, or if you wanna talk about your epic, like, fantasy, space odyssey
yeah.
series of 7 books, like, it's everyone here wants to hear about it, and all of them, talk to each other about it's great. It really is great. That's
It's
probably
fantastic.
one of my favorite things. So, the
Yeah,
teaching
yeah, yeah.
thing plus this, yeah.
Yeah. Um, when did the writing, and specifically horror writing, come into your life?
During the pandemic, 'cause in some way it's a process.
Yeah.
Horror has always been a part of my life, I think, culturally,
Yeah.
because that it wasn't like it was fiction. It was like you learn these things because you don't wanna get taken out by somebody who's unhappy in your ancestral line. You just
Oh
like
my god. Yeah. Yeah. Were you when you were growing up, did you hear a lot of stories?
I did, and it wasn't like they were ghost stories, but
Yeah.
they weren't stories to scare me, they were just told matter of fact, "Oh,
Yeah,
this
same
happened."
here. Same here.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't like blah, 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 but to scare you, it was like, "Oh, this happened to me while I went shopping."
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
had one oh, go ahead.
no, I still remember when as a kid, I would tell if I had a nightmare, I would tell my parents, and I would notice them staring at each other, going, "What's going on?" And it would be like, "Huh, you better not go outside today." I'm like,
Yeah,
"What?
yeah.
What?" Yeah, things like that. "Oh, we better call your grandpa. Maybe he's sick." Those kind of things.
Yes!
It was so
Yes.
matter of fact. that it just became part of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I was younger, like, maybe not super young, like 6, 7, so, like, a young child. I would have this dream, and I remember the first time I had it, so we're talking about recurring dreams, this dream of this woman, and I would walk into the bathroom, and I would see this woman naked in the tub, but it's, like, that really scary long black hair in front of her, and I
Uh-huh.
I don't know what she looks like, and she's covered all the way down with her body just in the tub. And, we're just standing there in my dream, like, I'm standing right beside the tub, and she's in the tub, and for a long period of time. But we're having this, like, silent conversation. I know what
Yeah.
she wants from me. She hasn't said anything, and then at some point, she'll reach out and try to touch me,
Mhm.
and as soon as that's about to happen, I wake up.
Yeah.
So I had that happen when I was literally little. I told my mom, and then she didn't say anything, but she looked a little scared. And then later on, many years later on, she told me that when I had the dream, I had a relative who was a aunt die in the bathtub right around the time I had the dream. And then this and then the weird thing, I still have that dream now. So every year I have that dream a couple of times, and it's the exact same thing where I'm in the bathroom
It's
and
the same.
same figure, and just as she's about to touch me, because she basically is I think my understanding of what she wants in the dream is that she wants to possess, like, she wants to take a turn again, "Let me live again." And so we're having this silent discussion where I'm resisting and saying, "I don't really think this is a good idea." And she's, "It'll be fine, I promise I won't hurt you." And then
You're like, "Are you sure about that?"
"Are you sure, Auntie? Are you sure?" And then every time, it's as soon as she's about to touch me, I wake up, but it's a long dream because when I have this dream, I'll wake up, but it's been like I've been asleep for hours.
Does it
Yeah,
still scare you when you have the dream, or it's
I usually am screaming out, like, that's when I actually cry out, and
mm,
I've woken up people, like, "What's going on?" But in the dream, I'm not saying anything.
yeah.
We're just having this silent we're just standing beside well, she's sitting in the tub, and I'm standing next to her or kneeling down, and we're just b beside each other the whole time. It's really creepy, I guess, if I say it out loud. Just a little.
Um, when your mom told you that, did you feel any guilt? Like maybe you had something to do with it?
I think that is definitely something as I've gotten older, I have thought about whether or not even writing horror is something I shouldn't do. It sounds really strange, but my mother has
Oh
actually
no.
right? My mother has actually said to me that because I've had these things happen, that I didn't fully grow out of it. There is this kind of thing where when you're younger, you will see more, like, you can experience more, but it's okay because 'cause you're young and that's expected that you see and
Yeah.
experience more. As you get older, it has to be a pretty strong entity or a pretty strong experience for the adults to experience it. It has to be, like, a very potent energy
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
break through. And she said, for me, since I still have these dreams and I'm writing horror and, like, being in that space, it's very inviting, and it basically is an invitation to
Mm.
whatever is so she doesn't like it. So when stuff happens, if, like, you get a flat tire, she's like, "It's your fault."
Is your mom my mom? What's as I said to my mom last time I saw her, I was like, "Why are Asian parents like this?"
It's so true.
Yeah.
But I do have a story for you where I did feel like maybe I had gone too far with some of
Tell
this.
me.
Okay, it's all like, you've assumed all risk. Right. Okay.
I'm not Catholic, but you're
So I went to Kansas City, and then I went to Tulsa. So I
Mhm.
met up with some friends in Kansas City, and then we took the car and went to Tulsa to meet up with some other writers. And we got an Airbnb because we thought, oh, it'd be fun for us to have a little sleepover and then maybe write a little bit and just like get together. So we got this Airbnb based on the pictures. It's called the Kimono House, and I don't know if it's really haunted or not haunted, so I'll say that just in case the Airbnb
Yeah.
owner is like, "Oh, no." But that's what it was, and it's a beautiful little cottage, like a bungalow, where inside you see kimonos on the wall, and they're actually the curtains for the windows. So instead of having these, they put the rod through the sleeves of the kimono, and they block the light out with
Mm.
these, like, antique kimonos. The knobs for the drawers are actually little metal doll hands. So there's no circles. You have to shake the little doll hand to pull it
That's
out
a
and
no
in.
from me.
Nope. You pull in and out. And there's tiling everywhere, broken pieces, like, different sizes and shapes, and they're on the wall. And the other thing that was really interesting was that it had a lot of, Asian kinda antiques, artifacts that I hadn't really seen in a house in that area before.
Mhm.
And one of the things they had was this really old koto, so a long, like, stringed instrument that's on the
Mhm.
ground, and it had more recent strings in it that weren't silk. It was like fish line, like the more
Yeah, yeah,
modern, like, guitar string, but
yeah.
the actual instrument itself was made from the original wood, and it was, against the wall. So we spend the first night there, and we cook together, we have everything's fine, we talk about how interesting the house is, and it felt very, like, conducive to writing. That was part of the reason we're like, "Oh, it's great." That night, I heard so many noises. I heard there was 2 people sleeping on one side of the house, and I heard them coming out of the room, going into the kitchen, opening up the cabinets, and then just doing stuff, and I thought, I've never stayed with these people before, so they're just really noisy people. I don't wanna sleep in a house with them in the future. But I hear all these noises, and then I hear, like, things falling from another bedroom, and I think, "Oh, okay, whatever." So, I didn't say anything because I figured that it's fine, we're gonna be there for one more night. The next day, we go on our business, we do a reading, we go to a museum, we do all these things, and then we come back, and then we have a friend who's joining us over, like, a virtual meeting. And then we're talking, and a huge thump goes off in a room, like someone just threw a book on the floor. And everybody, including the person on the screen, turns at the same time towards the noise.
Mhm.
And we all look at each other, and, "Did you hear the noises last night?" And everybody had heard noises, but nobody was the one doing it. So I asked the 2 people who I thought had come into the kitchen, and they said, "No, there's a bathroom near their rooms," and so they were just using if they were gonna go anywhere, they were gonna go to the bathroom there. They never came into the kitchen. The other person on my side of the house, I thought she was throwing kicking books off her bed, and she said, "No, I was trying to sleep, but it was really noisy, but I not nope, that I thought that was coming from your room." So we have to stay there one more night, and
Oh.
so we were like, "Okay, we gotta sleep, we gotta go t the next day we're gonna drive back." So I went to s tried to go to sleep, and I think I was like, "I can't watch anything horror, so I'm gonna watch something." I'm watching romance on, like, my phone. I'm like, "Oh, this is good." Like, I can think about these things, and I hear noises in the kitchen again, and this time we left the kitchen light on. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. Someone opens the door, comes in, scoots the chair out, sits down. I can tell, like, you scoot that chair across the wooden floor, you sit down, and then you're gonna make some coffee, you drink your cup, you put it down on the table. I heard all those noises, and of course I got up and I looked over there, I was like, "Oh, hello?" No one's there. It's just a lit room. And then I thought, "Oh, should I get up?" And then I was thinking to myself, I'm too tired. If you wanna come play, you can come play over here. I'm not getting up and going into the kitchen with it. This is why my mom thinks it's my fault, or I'm still lying there watching Bridgerton, and I'm about to fall asleep, and I kid you not, I felt somebody, like, pinch my toes. Like, every time I was getting a little bit sleepier, it felt like somebody would just nibble or squeeze my toes. Um And so I was like, "Oh, okay, this is just annoying because now I can't sleep." And, the feeling I had wasn't really, like, fear that I was gonna die, it was more that
Mm.
this whatever it was, if it was in my mind or whatever, was playing with me and didn't want me to ignore the presence of just basically was like, "You told me to come play with you, and I did. So here I am."
Yeah, you did, Francis.
It did. We wake up the next day and, we all heard noises. I told them about the toe pinching, which is like a maybe it's a ghost fetish, I don't know, so I'm sort of pinching. And we're all packed up, we're gonna leave because nothing else had happened, and I say out loud, just to everybody as we're leaving, I say, "It'd be really interesting if we had more time to talk to the owner and just get a sense of where all this stuff came from because this is a little we don't know, like, where did
Yeah.
all this come from?" And then I hear from my bag, my phone says, "Hello, hello." So my phone, which is fingerprint
Yeah.
whatever, it had called the owner of this house,
No.
and she's not in my phone.
What?
Yes. But she says, "Oh, Frances, is that you? Or I thought you guys checked out." So I have to fabricate a conversation that everybody's just like, "What's going on?" No one's saying anything, it's really awkward, I don't wanna just hang up on her, so I asked her, like, "So where did all this stuff come from?" And she said in the '80s, she went to Hong Kong, and there were all these flea markets, so she bought all this stuff and brought it back, and then learned how to play the instrument and bought more, and only, like, a tenth of all the stuff she has is in that house. She's got a museum's worth of stuff that she brought back from all these different locations in Asia, and she put them all into one house with all that energy swirling around from who knows where and what the history is. So, that was that part, and then it keeps going. Cause
Oh,
then
no.
I
Because so
come
far, all of you have made all of you, including the owner of the place, have made all the horror movie mistake characters. Right? Oh my god. Go on.
So we come back, and of course, I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting story." And I tell a group of women. So there's 4 of us total, so I tell the 3 other women about this whole thing. And a day later, each of them independently contacts me and says, "Something strange happened in my house after you told me the story." One had knocking at her front door, and there was
Mhm.
no one there, but it happened multiple times. And then she opened the door, which I told her, "You never open the door if there's no one there. You that's crossed the threshold, we all know. Didn't you watch Interview with the Vampire? Don't you understand? Like,
Come in.
come in." Yeah, so she called me and said, basically, "There's been knocking on my door." Another woman said that the passwords in her house for various things had been changed, and they were changed the same number. And the last friend who actually said, "I don't want you to tell the other friends this because I don't wanna scare them." She said that she was in her home with her daughter, putting her to bed, and she was in the bathroom getting herself ready for bed when she heard screaming, just like high-pitched wail, like little child screaming. So she rushes into her daughter's room to see if anything's wrong, and the little girl looks at her like, "What's wrong, mommy? Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine." So she hears a child screaming in her house, like, she hears it a couple
Mhm.
times, but so I think what happens is that I brought something back, and then every time I tell the story, it transfers to the next person.
You buried the lead on this one. Great.
It's been a long time, it's dissipated, all this
So
Uh-huh.
basically, everyone listening to this
Yes.
episode. All right. All right.
Have fun, cover your toes with socks, like a massage,
Oh
really
my
hard one.
god. That's when they told you that, I know you said when the toe touching happened and all that, it wasn't scary. But
No.
did it when does it get scary for you or does it ever?
I think I think a lot of writers, myself included, just and just me in general, we like to have control, and that's
Mm,
part of the reason why I think we write characters and we do a lot of things we do because we feel like we have control, especially when there's a lot of things we can't control in real life.
Yeah.
So with this experience, I didn't feel like I lacked any control because I felt like it's a strange thing when you feel like you are actually aligned in intention and interest with something maybe that wants to actually is really bored in a house or just wants
Mhm,
to, like, have you carry a part of it out so it can play.
mhm.
That was the feeling I had, is if there is I'm not super superstitious, but at least with this, it's like I was brought up to be respectful of the dead, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, yeah.
they come get you, all the time. But with this, I felt like the experience was more of a playfulness, a desire to not be ignored anymore, being bored, wanting to do a little bit of pranking just to be acknowledged, and then it just petered out after a
Mhm.
while. So if there's anything, it's gonna be very small. I don't think it's
Oh, good.
usually very small, like little things. When do I get scared? I feel like I get scared when I don't understand the logic
Mm,
of something.
mm,
Not that there's a lot of science and logic to this, but there's not a lot of science and logic to a lot of things in life. And I think when I don't understand why, that makes me more worried because I don't really know what to do with the story or the lesson or like the phenomenon. My grandfather was younger. He's passed away now, but when he would tell us stories about how when he was in the military, he, would go to different towns, and part of the unit's purpose was to defend those smaller towns,
mhm,
and when they would reach a village, sometimes the village was already gone. It'd already been burned down, they were too late, and so he had one situation where they got there and it was too late, and there were people dead, and so they did what they could to clean up, but essentially, they were gonna spend the night there and then move on to the next location. And when he slept in one of the houses, in the middle of the night, he heard creaking above him, and he looked up, and there was, like, a guy hanging from, like, a noose, basically dead, who'd killed himself probably in that area, staring down at him. Looked like he was alive, but staring down at him and making eye contact and just looking at my grandfather. And my grandfather said I said, like, when I was a kid, were you scared?" He's, "No." I knew what had happened, like, we didn't get here in time, so, there were people that were dead, there was a lot of stuff like that there, so he basically just said the ghost to the guy, he said, "You know what? When I get home, I promise that I will burn paper money for you, I will basically try to make sure that you have a good afterlife for your family, but you shouldn't come after us because we are trying to protect these villages, so we gotta sleep and we gotta keep going." And my
yeah.
grandfather just went back to sleep. He's yeah. So he's gonna go
Man.
back to bed. And then when he did finish with he did go back eventually my grandfather returned home. He did do all those things, and he's yeah, it didn't scare me. It just meant that there was somebody who was very unhappy in their death, and so we just helped them out, and that's it.
Yeah. Damn. That was an amazing story. Now I'm gonna be freaked out all day. Like every noise is gonna be like, "What was that?"
It's wear socks. It's wear a lot of
I have a couple of writing questions for you.
Sure.
One is, what was your first horror story that you wrote? Not necessarily published, but the first one you wrote.
Oh, yeah. I wrote like, the first story it did get eventually published, but the first horror story I wrote was about, my childhood in Alabama, where we had a Chinese restaurant, and I had some experiences there that happened after my family members made a we could quite call it a Chinese Ouija board.
Mm,
It's not like it is in principle the same thing, but
mhm,
what it is that's different is you make it yourself. So you get a piece of paper, you put all the words you wanna put on it, and then they put a quarter in the center where there was a circle, and the circle had the word "jia," which is home.
mhm,
So that story, was the first one I wrote because I remember as a child watching them play with this Ouija board, and they went for hours, but they were all scared
mhm,
because the Ouija board basically wasn't working the way it was supposed to work, and after that, I saw things in the restaurant. Like, they basically opened up something because
Mm.
the quarter never went back home. When you open up these Ouija
Yeah, you're
boards,
right.
you have to have the spirit, like, voluntarily return back to home, and then it closes things up. That never happened, and so in that restaurant when I was younger, there were things that, I remember. I was like, "Huh," as an adult, I was like, "That's really strange," and then I talked to my mom afterwards, and she said, "I didn't know you saw those things." They left for different reasons because they gave up the restaurant for different reasons because they were also having accidents after that, but I was seeing things too. They just didn't know that I was seeing things at the same time. So I wrote that into a story. Like, it fictionalized, of course.
Is this something that you've been thinking about your ever since you were a kid, or when you decided to write a story, it popped back into your head?
I think when I started thinking about, like, the stories that my family told me, then I started to remember the things that I
Mm,
didn't understand as a child that I had seen happen,
yeah.
and some of it was scary because as a child, I didn't think it was scary. I was like, "Okay, it's fine, whatever." And then as adult, I think, "Oh, why did my relatives play with the Ouija board at all?" Bad idea, right, for them to have
Yeah.
done it, but it's also cultural too. That was something that kids did, and so they did
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. My next writing question.
Yeah.
You're doing 1,000 things, but as far as writing goes, are you working on something new?
Yeah, I am trying to work on longer fiction, so I have a couple things brewing. I'd like to do finish up. I've been working on a, short story collection and trying to put in all these ghost stories that I've experienced and tie them up with a theme. So I'm working on that, some short stories as well, and then some things that are coming out or have come out. So yeah, a little bit of everything all the time. But I do find that once I switch to doing a lot more of the publishing stuff, I
Mhm.
it's like endless. It is there is no bottom. It's just constantly free fall.
Yeah.
I'm like, "What do I g" So, there's so many events and things that are about to plan, and then it's not even that I don't like I really enjoy it. I really do enjoy building community this way. Through
Yeah.
words, through readings and sharing stories. I really enjoy it. But
I
there
did. Yeah.
Yeah, but there is a potential to do nothing but that because it's fun. It's like a nonstop party. Like, I love it. Yeah. So I need to build in some more time for me to just I've been working on a story today, so I was trying to do that as well. But yeah, I do find that I enjoy the publishing a lot to the point where I have to remind myself, yes, but you have to sometimes be by yourself and talk to the ghosts instead. Keep to all the people who are alive.
Obviously, you're around horror writers all the time, but do you seek out or talk to like mediums and psychics and ghost hunters and all those people, or you just leave that for television shows?
I have never done that, but I really want to. I would love to get that perspective. Part of the reason I haven't in the past is that everyone in my family believes that they're sensitive. My
Oh
family's
my
always like,
god.
"Oh, I have this experience, let me tell you, blah, blah, blah." I was like, "Oh, that sounds like you had a dream." "No, it's not a dream." I don't know. I don't know if you have the experience where everyone in the family has had something and
Your
they're all
I think my family is your family.
"You said what? What?"
Yeah. We should both go find some psychics and mediums and talk to them.
Oh, yeah. So I have a friend who works at who is, like, part of the training program at the temple in Japantown, a little
Mm,
Tokyo,
mhm,
and he's told me about stuff that happens in the temple for dispelling the energy of objects that come into the temple. So if you ever wanna do a little, like, haunted object
yeah.
adventure, we could just totally go there and ask to see if we can find the box of all the haunted
Let's go. Let's do it.
go, let's do it. We're like, hair rush, I don't know.
I mean, I won't
Then
brush my hair with it, but oh my god. Uh,
yeah, no, it's just so much. what you can do.
And this was so fun, and that story so great. But before foot, foot fetishes, man, they're everywhere
Everywhere.
in every realm.
Every realm, every realm.
Yeah,
Everyone loves feet.
everybody loves feet. Everybody loves feet. I don't know.
I don't know.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming on the show.
you.
You have two books that's coming out this year that you'll be working on. Can you tell the people what it is and when it's coming out? This is the anthology you were in that came out earlier this year, Unquiet
Mhm.
Spirits. The
Yeah, so the Cozy Cosmic is my and Mark's take on how we could do cosmic a little bit differently with a twist. Um,
mm,
cosmic horror, Lovecraft, like there's a lot
mm,
there, right?
yeah,
And I've always thought, how would we reclaim it a little bit? Like, how would we just make it a little bit different? And our approach is to try to make it so that it's not just academics who find a book somewhere, start chanting, and then they get to have all the fun, because really, the
yeah,
professors have all the fun, really. What about us
yeah,
normal, everyday people?
yeah,
I think the Cosmic Cozy is trying to inject a little bit of that humor, just twist to it where, "Okay, all the bad things are happening, the world is ending, but I still want coffee." How would you deal with that? How would you deal with that as a prompt? We got some great stories. Some of them, I could not stop laughing. We also got some weird stories, but they were great, but they were just clean weird. It fit. And then for Winding Path, that's coming out, like, in November, and it's very gamey. It's totally a different this is my version of how I would like to play an anthology if I were gonna try to play it and read through the stories, and I
I
want
love the idea. Yeah, I'm so excited about that book. Is that the first of that type of book you guys are putting out?
Yep. And the next
Awesome.
one, I'm not sure what the game mechanic will be for the next one. And part of it that I don't know if I was successful at doing or what, but Ken and I really were trying to make it fun, because we know there are a lot of games where the mechanics are fine, but it's not really fun.
Yeah,
Or if you do it, but you're just like, "Okay, I did a thing and that game was," so we're trying to make it fun and not too analysis centric and all that. So hopefully it's enough of a game experience without overloading it and turning into this, like, analytical
yeah.
thing. I just wanted it to be fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you again,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Follow Frances on all the social media so you could get notified and be aware when those books come out and all her amazing future projects.
And tell us if something happens to you after listening to this. I
Oh
really
my
want
god.
to
I'm gonna dedicate an entire episode where I'm like, that damn Frances. Well,
I wanna know if something happens for you.
oh yeah. I love you. You're amazing. And
You
I could
too.
I could talk to you all day, every day. It would be so fun. And I definitely want to make a plan to get out to Portland and
Yes,
hang
come
out.
visit.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us for another amazing episode of Are You There Ghost? It's me, Chiwan. Once again, thanks to Francis and to Rob for producing. See you again next time. Peace.